Well, as I've said, Scott Morrison now has enormous problems everywhere. Mind you, some of them can be solved by ripping up the submarine contract, paying the exit fee, buying them off the shelf and funnel the money saved, billions, into a 10-year proper funding of aged care. More of that later. I'll be looking at the mess of energy policy later on this week with Craig Kelly. But viewers are saying to me in their droves, how dumb are we? We've leased Darwin Port, right next to the Larrakia Barracks, the main base for the Australian Defence Force in the Northern Territory, one of the oldest structures built in the early years of World War II. And we leased the Port of Darwin to a Chinese company, and we do it all over again. As one of my viewers has said, the Chinese come down here and wave wads of cash under our nose, and we bend over backwards to give them whatever they want. We now have granted a Chinese-linked company a mining lease of an abandoned iron ore operation on Cockatoo Island in WA's Kimberley region, next to the Yampi Sound Defence Training Area. How smart's that? Cockatoo Island is about 2,000 kilometres from Perth. It boasts an airstrip, which was used to service past mining projects, as well as a resort built by Alan Bond during the 1980s. The new lease was approved last year and will expire in 2032. The Foreign Investment Review Board was supposed to examine the deal. Security officials have privately expressed concerns. Senator Conchetta Fierravanti-Wells, who got into trouble during Turnbull's prime ministership for criticising Chinese expansionism, has said she's alarmed at the deal. And she makes the valid point that it's another example of why the acquisition of strategic assets from governments in Australia by private companies with links to Beijing should come within the scope of foreign relations legislation. She rightly says China's company and national security laws require that the Chinese Communist Party control not only Chinese state-owned entities, but also Chinese private companies. Last year, the Morrison government passed new foreign relations laws which allowed the Commonwealth the power to veto agreements with foreign countries, but not deals done with private companies. The Defence Department says appropriate security arrangements are in place, whatever the hell that means. Many people have written to me with knowledge and make the point that it's not just Yampi training area the Chinese can monitor from their Cockatoo Island base, but also with the help of undersea sensors, the movements of our RAN surface and submarine vessels, transiting adjacent waters en route to Fleet Base West near Perth to patrol Southeast Asian waters. What the hell is going on? Well, I promised Senator Jim Molan after the break. He's back from a vote and he joins us live from Canberra. Jim, thank you for your time. Now, you heard what I had to say. What is going on here? Who would believe that the takeover of mining lease that went belly up some 5 years ago is innocent and above board and goes to Chinese interests?
It's a very, very hard one because so many of us don't know enough about this. Apparently this went through the Foreign Investment Review Board, but we don't get access, Alan, to that. And what I try and do is not to explain it in detail, but to understand it. And to understand this, I think that I'm obligated to say that people know my position on China. China is very lacking in trust at the moment from many, many places in the world. Alan, war with China is not just possible because everyone's armed to the teeth, but it's more likely than so many people are prepared to admit. And I said recently that war could occur over various reasons within 3 to 5 years. A US admiral came out yesterday, and this applies very much to what China is doing in our part of the world. A US admiral who commands about 250,000 people and a significant proportion of the Earth's surface came out and said his belief is that war with China over Taiwan will occur within 6 years. That's right. I was saying 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
I'm happy to accept that. But the real kicker on this was that he said that his command, Indo-Pacific Command, needed $27 billion from Congress, he was talking to Congress, to enable him to deter China from acting against our interests.
But surely, Jim, to interrupt you there, surely if we put, as we have the Quad arrangement, you put Japan, India, Australia and the United States of America together, surely we can say to China, listen, you do what you want to do, but I'll tell you what, we will have a response, surely.
I'd like to think that, but I think there's a significant step now between the conversation that we saw over the weekend and a military alliance. You know, Japan is used to dealing with China, but compared to its GDP, it's fairly small. India may not want to get mixed up in a Taiwan scenario, although it might be happy to get mixed up in an Indian Ocean scenario. But I think the Quad is absolutely critical to us, and what Maurice Payne and Scott Morrison are doing in relation to that is first class.
But just
that's
come back,
a significant step
Sorry,
out.
Jim, just come back to this Cockatoo Island, for God's sake. I mean, there'll be Chinese military types coming out to manage the operation. They'll have binoculars and telescopes and cameras, all entirely innocent, I don't think. And they're private aircraft landing on the lease. Well, most probably accidentally just stray over the training area, especially when it's being used. Why can't the national government cancel the lease? Why can't they make sure that any Chinese staff are declined entry into Australia? Or aren't we tough enough?
Well, I think we can deny entry into Australia. I'd be quite confident we can do that if we wanted to and if there was reason to do it. We certainly can't roll a lease like that, an arrangement like that, through the recent Foreign Affairs Bill, and that's a real shame. But see,
well, that means the bill is inadequate. The Foreign Affairs Bill, Jim, should have provided for private sector operations. China's smart. So they've got some private sector, so they know Australia's got legislation, but it prevents country-to-country deals. But if it's a private sector thing, under the guise of China, then away they go. And here we are impotent to deal with our own assets, eh?
I think if we discovered that they were doing something there, and we can discover that, we would move on it very, very fast. I have every confidence in that. It's things like Darwin Port, where this is not Pearl Harbor in 1941-42. Surveillance and intelligence are conducted in a totally different way. I would suggest that what people are currently saying out there, Alan, that they're putting out sensors for submarines and things like that, they're all over the place now. We can watch everything that they do from satellites, etc., and that's when we would move.
Jim, I'm sorry, look, take Darwin, then there's Cockatoo Island. Now, China are building an industrial city at Daru, one of PNG's most impoverished provinces, health system hopeless, school infrastructure just as bad, no sewage system. And China are proposing a new Daru, massive city, major seaport, big industrial focus, and they're calling it a multifunctional fishing park. There are no commercial fishing grounds anywhere near Daru, and the Fujian Zhonghong Fishery Company is controlled by the government of Communist China. And it's being sponsored by the Chinese Department of Commerce. I mean, you know that in December 2013, the Chinese launched an all-out island-building campaign in the South China Sea. The islands become military bases. They've got the capacity to block off the Torres Strait. And what happens to our oil supplies then?
Absolutely correct. And I think we should be very, very careful about what we watch going on at Daru. I reckon my bet would be, Alan, that the Chinese are playing with our minds on this one. And we've got to work initially through the PNG government and the provincial government over there. But in an extreme situation, in Cockatoo Island and in Daru, should something bad occur there, in an extreme situation, very extreme, we can do things about it. We can reach out and hurt them.
But Jim, I spoke.
We should never do it.
I spoke recently to a distinguished soldier. In 2013, he and a group of 8 were told to put together a team of 8 little black rubber Zodiacs, inflatable boats, to go from Daru to Weipa to test if the border force, which is safeguarding our security, could pick them up. They couldn't. They had the whole job done. Daru to Australia in 3 days in inflatable boats, for God's sake. And here are China building a $40 billion city there. I mean, we're asleep at the wheel.
Sometimes I think we're dozing, Alan, but I am working myself to death to wake us all up, because that's what we've got to do. And I've got to say, we've done more on national security in this government than I could ever imagine. What we don't realise is that for the last 75 years, we have lived on the back of American military power for our security and our prosperity. It's all changed now. And
but if we're relying on 80%, if 80% of our oil is imported, what the hell happens to us if someone jams up the straits to the north of Australia?
Well, and this is the single point of failure in my humble view. The single point of failure is our ports and the merchandise, particularly the fuel, that flows through it. Now, Angus Taylor has got a number of plans coming along. Every time he turns sideways, we lose a a refinery and the state stop him from drilling. Now, what I would like to see is a much more a comprehensive plan of what we should be doing. A plan that focuses not just on where we are at the moment, but on the outputs. And that's my hope, mate. Jim, I'm working hard to achieve that.
I know. Well, good on you, Jim. Good to talk to you. But I'll tell you what, we've always got plans. This doesn't make sense to me. A 40 billion industrial base right on our doorstep. I think China are laughing at us. We've got to continue the debate nonetheless. I'm sure they're monitoring both you and me, but that doesn't matter. Good to talk to you, Senator Jim Molan. Thank you for your time. Thank you. There he is,
Thanks,
Jim
Alan.
Molan.
Thank you.